All right, guys. So I know it's been a while since I posted, and I kind of figured this was going to happen with the NFL season sort of being, well, completely dead. I mean, it's June, and obviously the month of June is pretty much the most dead month of the year when it comes to NFL football. And July is not much different either. So I'm still going to do my best to try to post as much as I can. But today I want to bring up a talking point. This is actually on X. Well, I call it Twitter still, but on X. And this was brought up by Walker from the CNG podcast. So I will leave his link to his Twitter in the description below. But just to kind of show you guys what he put out, kind of wanted to talk about this a little bit. An interesting talking point here that he posted on Twitter. And the question is, which or what NFC North quarterback has the most to prove? And so obviously the four options here being Caleb Williams, JJ McCarthy, Jordan Love, and Jared Goff. So starting off right away at number 4, I kind of went back and forth with this one, but I think it became more obvious once I kind of thought about it more. And for me, it's Jared Goff. We already know what Jared Goff is. I forget how old he is, but I want to say he's maybe 30 years old. If not, he's very close to it. But Jared Goff has now been in two very good systems with the Rams, with Sean McVay and Ben Johnson, the Lions, and he still hasn't been able to get it done. So I think that right there just kind of tells me that Jared Goff is at best a, above average quarterback. He's never going to be an MVP quarterback. He might put up, MVP level numbers in a sense, but I don't think he's ever going to be that guy that wins your team a Super Bowl, whether it's the Lions or whatever team he ends up on next. If he couldn't do it with Sean McVay and a prime Todd Gurley in 2018, and if he couldn't do it with the 2024 Lions, how good they were, and I get they had a lot of injuries on defense, and then you go look at 2023, a great team as well with Ben Johnson. I just don't see it happening. I mean, I feel like Jared Goff just needs way too much to be right in order for him to win a ring. And in the NFL, they're going to deal with injuries. They're going to deal with adversity. And if you can't win just because, everything isn't absolutely perfect for you, then you're just not it. So I don't think Jared Goff has anything to prove. I think he's already proven what he is. So that moves me up to number 3 now, which is very easily for me, JJ McCarthy. And for all intents and purposes, he's really a rookie. He didn't play at all last year because he tore his meniscus in preseason. So we have yet to see him in an actual NFL game. So we're going to get that this season, week 1 versus the Bears, actually. And JJ McCarthy, same draft class as Caleb Williams. He was the 5th quarterback taken, and he was a top 10 pick, actually picked number 10 by the Minnesota Vikings. And yes, he does have that bit of pressure on him and a bit to prove as a top 10 pick, but at the same time, too, he has not played an NFL snap. So it'd be foolish for you to assume, for anybody to assume really, that McCarthy's going to go into the 2025 NFL season and start throwing for 40 touchdowns or even replicate what Sam Darnold did last year. I mean, that's still a really, high bar to set on a guy that was not a highly touted prospect, at least in terms of his rest of his classmates, and isn't a guy that was known for throwing a ton of touchdowns and for being just ultra gunslinger in college. He was more of a handoff specialist, if you will, not to disrespect him, but he wasn't the prospect that Jaden Daniels, that Drake May, and Caleb Williams were coming out of college. So I think he's still going to need some adjusting to do. And then this is where things get interesting because, as you can see from the poll, a lot of people picked Caleb Williams, and for good reason. I could see the argument for that. Personally, though, I am going to put number 2 at Caleb Williams, and a few reasons for this one. And I'll start off with number 1, the fact that Caleb Williams isn't the only person on the team that has something huge to prove. I think we also have to take into account here some context with the fact that we have Ben Johnson, who this is his first time being an NFL coach. And yes, ideally he should work out. Ideally he should be a Sean McVay level head coach because he's already a good play caller. But we know, and it's happened many, many times before, there are a lot of good coordinators, offensive and defensive coordinators, that go on to be head coaches and just stink it up. They're not proven to be good coaches. I mean, we actually have one on our team in Dennis Allen. He's been a head coach twice for the Raiders and the Saints, and he's been terrible. But whenever he's a defensive coordinator, he's good. So I think with Caleb Williams, him not being the only guy that has something to prove on the team really does put me at number 2 for Caleb Williams. We still got to see if Ben Johnson's the right head coach. And then on top of that, you still have the rest of the staff, that even if they were good at their respective, positions, I guess, or job titles on other teams, they're still on a completely different team. And now they've come to the Bears, And they got to prove that they can work together to build around his quarterback and to bring him the most success that they can. And yes, Caleb Williams has to prove his worth as the number one overall pick, and obviously trading away Justin Fields instead of just keeping Fields and, getting the haul or whatever for Caleb Williams. I think for him, I really don't think he has as much to prove, especially since he's only a second-year quarterback. I think it'd be foolish for any Bears fan. I don't think any reasonable Bears fan is sitting here in June right now saying the Bears are going to win the Super Bowl in 2025 or that we're even going to make the Super Bowl. And honestly, I don't even hear that many people saying that we're going to make a deep playoff run in general. I think most Bears fans and most reasonable Bears fans, they just want to see the Bears make the playoffs. Really, or at least a winning season. I think 9-8 is sort of like the bare minimum, no pun intended. But I think 9-8 and a playoff berth, whether it's the 7th seed or whatever, man, if we can just do that, and even if we're a first-round exit and Caleb Williams has a solid season, 4,000 yards, high 20s or maybe even 30 touchdown passes, that would be good for us. I think Caleb Williams, that would be the bar that would be good for year 2 because he's still very young going into a new system. I don't think he makes or breaks his career in year 2, unless he's just absolutely terrible. Then we'll start getting worried. But going on to number 1, and I'll explain why, but Jordan Love is actually the one that has the most to prove. And I think the big thing here, and I'm going to go back in time a little bit for when he was drafted. All the way back in 2020, he was in the draft class with Justin Herbert, with Tua, Joe Burrow. I forgot where he was drafted. I know it was the late 20s because this was when they still had MVP Aaron Rodgers. And the thing is here, with Jordan Love getting drafted, the Packers were in win now mode. They just had their quarterback win MVP. Aaron Rodgers was at the top of his game, arguably the best quarterback in the NFL, aside from Tom Brady and aside from Patrick Mahomes, but he was still a top 5 quarterback. Obviously, that's why he won MVP that year that Jordan Love got drafted. But also that same year too, if you guys remember, the Bucs won the Super Bowl that year. But they were also very close to losing that game against the Packers in the NFC Championship round. And you could argue, and I will definitely argue, that the difference between the Packers winning that game and losing that game and, going to the Super Bowl might have been the fact that they didn't use a useful first-round pick. And I get it. I know Aaron Rodgers is getting old. You need a guy to sort of step in, sit down for a bit, and learn from one of the best quarterbacks in NFL history. Great. But I don't think it costs a chance at a Super Bowl. When you have a position where you can draft a wide receiver, or you can draft a running back, or you can draft a defensive end, or some at least key position, something that is going to actually propel your team forward. That could have been the difference maker to at least make the Super Bowl. They were very close at winning, and Jordan Love played no role whatsoever other than just having an extra body at camp. Because remember, he didn't play at all. So I think for Jordan Love, you have to prove, hey, was this worth it? Because Aaron Rodgers was really pissed that, we didn't build around him. You didn't get him a receiver. And also, just to keep on adding more talking points here, he's got a $53 million contract. After having one good season in the league, he is also in his 6th NFL season, and all we have is one playoff win. And I know he's been to the playoffs, this past season too, but he was 1-6 in the division, guys. And on top of that, he should have been swept if it wasn't for a tip field goal. I think Jordan Love has a ton to prove on the contract. The fact that he's getting paid $53 million per year after playing maybe half a good season in 2023. I think Jordan Love has way too much to prove now with everything that you take into account throughout his entire career, honestly. And if you want to even throw in this little nugget here, they drafted a wide receiver for the first time in 20-something years. They're saying, hey, Jordan Love, we are giving you this final piece. Please make something out of it. We're not saying that you have to win the Super Bowl, but man, let's at least get past the first round. Let's at least try to get past the second round. Let's make an NFC Championship appearance if we're going to pay you $53 million a year. And I know that contract isn't going to look too bad in a year or two from now with more quarterbacks getting more extensions. But I think for Jordan Love, I think he's just under that pressure right now. And I think he has the most to prove now that he's really considered a veteran in this league. And yes, he hasn't had as much playing time as some of other players that have played 6 years in this league. But man, you've learned from the GOAT or from one of one of the GOATs of quarterbacks, at least the GOAT of the Packers. And you've got your extension, you've got your money, you've got your pretty receiver now, you've got Josh Jacobs, you've got a solid offensive line. Go out there and win. I don't think the same standards should be held on Caleb Williams, expecting him to go to the NFC Championship, even though he has a better roster, really, than the Packers. And that's my argument on it. So let me know what you guys think. I believe the CNG podcast also said Caleb Williams has the most to prove, and I completely respect that opinion. Do I agree? Not necessarily, but I do definitely see the argument for there. But either way, man, show this guy some love. He's a good friend of mine, and absolutely love his content, man. But just go and show him some love on that tweet, get it blowing up, and let me know what you guys think down below in the comments. Bear down, I'm out.